February 12th, 1883. The Wolf Winter. Temperature was 40 below when I heard the knocking. Wasn't no human could survive out there. I figured it was death himself come calling. I grabbed my Spencer rifle and forced open that frozen door. Blast of white wind hit me like a fist. And there she was. Apache woman collapsed in the snow, lips blue as September sky, ice crystals in her black hair like diamonds on a corpse. She wasn't alone. A wolf dog stood over her, hackles raised, protecting what should have already been dead. And partner? That's when I knew I wasn't dealing with just a woman. I was dealing with the wild itself. By dawn, 14 armed men would surround my cabin. One of them wore a marshal's badge. The others wanted blood. And the woman I'd saved? She was the widow of a man I'd killed 4 years prior at Bear Creek. Sometimes the thing you think will destroy you is the thing that saves you. Narrator's weathered hands hold a faded photograph of a mixed-race family, 3 generations smiling. I opened my door to death, and life walked in. 3 years I'd been alone in that cabin. 3 years since Abigail and our daughter died in childbirth during a winter storm just like this one. Doctor couldn't reach us through the drifts. I buried them when the ground thawed, then rode 40 miles into the Mogollon Rim where nobody'd bother asking questions about a man named Silas Crowley. Used to be they called me Winter Ghost, cavalry scout. Survived a 3-day blizzard at Bear Creek by hiding inside an elk carcass. Killed 23 Apache warriors in 20 years of service. Never thought number 24 would be the one who'd haunt me. That night I was nursing my 3rd whiskey when the knocking started. Faint at first, wind playing tricks, I figured. Then it came again. Steady, deliberate, human. I grabbed my rifle and approached the door. Ice had sealed it shut. Took both hands to wrench it open, and when I did, the cold bit so hard my lungs seized. She lay crumpled in a drift, buckskin dress frozen stiff as tree bark, one bare foot twisted at an angle that made my stomach turn. Arrow wound in her shoulder, old, maybe 3 days. Frostbite had already claimed her toes. They were white as candle wax. The wolf dog wouldn't let me near her at first. "Easy now," I said, rifle lowered. "I ain't gonna hurt her." The animal studied me with yellow eyes, then stepped aside. Smart creature. Knew when a human was her only chance. I carried the woman inside. She weighed nothing. Starvation on top of exposure. Laid her by the fire and started cutting away the frozen buckskin. Had to be careful. Fabric tears skin when it's that cold stuck. Her lips moved. Fever talking already. "Running bear," she whispered in Apache. Then in broken English. "Cursed. Eclipse child. Nalnish." My hands froze on the scissors. Running Bear. I knew that name. Killed him at Canyon Creek 4 years back. Clean shot through the heart during the massacre. He'd died brave, rifle raised, defending women and children from my commanding officer's madness. I looked at her face, high cheekbones, strong jaw, scar above her left eyebrow. She had a bone necklace around her throat, carved with a child's name in Apache script. "Jesus Christ," I muttered. "Who'd you make enemies with, girl?" Wrapped her in Abigail's old quilts and buffalo robes. Rubbed circulation back into her arms and legs, careful around the frostbite. She'd lose those toes for certain, maybe more. Built up the fire till my cabin felt like August. The wolf dog lay down beside her. Some kind of hybrid, half wolf, half something domesticated. Kept one eye on me the whole time. Dawn broke cold and pink. I'd just gotten coffee boiling when hoofbeats pounded up outside. "Silas!" Murphy's voice, rough with panic. I opened the door. Elwood Murphy, 73 years old, owned the trading post 15 miles south. His horse was lathered, half dead from the ride. "You got smoke signals on the ridge," he gasped, pointing west. "Apache war party. 6 warriors, maybe more, and they're tracking someone." His eyes shifted past me to where the woman lay unconscious by my fire. "Silas," his voice dropped. "Whatever you're thinking, don't. They hang men for helping the wrong soul." I looked back at her, chest rising and falling. Still alive, against every odd. "Reckon I already made my choice," I said, and barred the door. Murphy shook his head slow. "You just bought yourself a war, old man." The blizzard hit full force by midday. Snow came down so thick you couldn't see 20 feet. Wind howled like a widow at a funeral, rattling the shutters, finding every crack in the walls. Temperature dropped to 50 below, the kind of cold that makes your teeth ache just breathing. I was trapped inside with a woman who might be the death of me. She didn't wake for 2 days. I kept the fire roaring, changed her bandages, spooned melted snow between her lips when the fever spiked. The wolf dog, I started calling him Little Smoke for the gray patches on his black coat, wouldn't leave her side. Smart animal. Growled if I got too close, but let me tend her wounds. That arrow wound was infected. I cleaned it with whiskey and packed it with yarrow paste the way the Shoshone had taught me years back. Her frostbitten toes were already turning black. She'd lose 3 of them, maybe 4, but she'd live. If the men tracking her didn't find us first. Third night, I woke to her watching me from across the room. She didn't move, just stared with those dark eyes, taking my measure. Firelight played across her face, highlighting the scar above her eyebrow, the carved bone necklace at her throat. "You speak English?" I asked, keeping my voice low. Long pause. Then, some. Her voice was rough from fever but clear. Educated. Missionary school, probably. Got a name? Aita. She shifted, winced. Mean, eternal blossom. Foolish name for cursed woman. Ain't no such thing as cursed, just bad luck and worse men. She almost smiled at that, almost. Why you save? Her English was broken but deliberate. I am enemy. I looked at my hands. 2 fingertips missing on the left from frostbite at Bear Creek. Scars across the knuckles from rifle recoil. Hands that had killed more men than I cared to count. Enemy's a word men use when they're too lazy to see a person, I said. You're a woman who was freezing to death. That's all I needed to know. She studied me for a long moment. You are Winter Ghost, the scout. My blood went cold. How'd you know that name? Your hands. She gestured weakly. Missing fingers. Story is known. The ghost who lived in the elk. Her eyes held mine. The ghost who killed Chief Iron Wolf. Running Bear, I corrected quietly. His name was Running Bear. Something shifted in her face. Pain deeper than any wound. Yes, Running Bear. Her hand moved to the bone necklace. My husband. The fire crackled. Wind screamed outside. Little Smoke's ears pricked up, sensing the tension. I didn't know, I said finally. At Bear Creek, it wasn't. My commanding officer went mad. Ordered us to fire on women and children. I tried to stop it. Running Bear came at us with his rifle raised, defending his people. I had to. He died with honor. Her voice was steady. No tears. You live with shame. Which is worse? I had no answer for that. She turned her face toward the fire. I know who you are, Winter Ghost, and you know who I am now. We are bound by blood. Question is, what do we do with this binding? Before I could answer, Little Smoke growled low. Footsteps outside. Slow, deliberate. Someone circling the cabin. I grabbed my rifle and moved to the window. Through the frost-covered glass, I saw a shadow pass. Too tall for Murphy, too careful for a curious animal. The footsteps stopped at my door. Then silence. I waited, rifle raised, barely breathing. 5 minutes. 10. Finally, the shadow moved away. But when I checked the door at first light, there was a message scratched into the frozen wood with a knife blade. Sunrise. Bring her out. Over the next week, the cabin became our world. 12 feet by 12 feet. One room. Nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. The blizzard kept everyone trapped. Us, Murphy, the men hunting her, the war party on the ridge. I taught her to read English letters, scratching them on the hearthstones with charcoal. She taught me Apache words for snow. They had 7 different ones depending on whether it was falling, drifting, melting, or killing. This one, she said, pointing to a word she'd written, means snow that buries the weak. What we have now. And what's the word for the snow that saves them? She thought for a moment. No word for that. Snow does not save. People save. We fell into a routine. I'd cook, badly, and she'd watch with what I swear was amusement. When I burned the cornbread black, she laughed. First real sound of joy I'd heard in 3 years. "You are terrible cook," she said, breaking off a piece of the charred bread. "Good thing you have other skills." "Like what?" "Not dying." She bit into the bread, made a face. "And killing things. This bread is proof." I found myself smiling. Never had complaints before. "Your wife must have loved you very much." The smile faded. I looked at Abigail's shawl, still folded on the rocking chair where I'd left it 3 years ago. "She did," I said quietly. "And I failed her. Couldn't get a doctor through the storm when she went into labor. Lost her and the baby both." Aida reached across the small space and touched my frost-scarred hand, just for a moment. "You did not fail," she said. "Winter failed. Winter always fails someone." Day 5, Murphy rode up in a brief break in the weather. He brought supplies, flour, dried meat, coffee, and news I didn't want to hear. "Bounty's up to $300, he said, standing in my doorway, not coming inside. "Federal marshals asking questions in town. Name's Josiah Kane. Hard man. Lost his brother in an Apache ambush a few years back. He finds out you're harboring her." "He won't." Murphy looked past me at Ayita, who sat by the fire mending one of my shirts with careful stitches. She didn't look up, but I knew she was listening. "There's talk in town," Murphy continued. "Some folks saying you've gone Indian, others saying you're planning something. And Silas," he lowered his voice, "your cousin Elias is stirring up trouble. Talking about your homestead claim, how it should have gone to family when Abigail died. That claim's legal and recorded. Legal don't matter when men get torches in their hands." Murphy shifted his weight. "I'm just saying, might be time to make a hard choice, before the choice gets made for you." After he left, I found a note tucked inside the flour sack. "Apache committee forming in town. 6 men, led by your cousin. They mean business. M." I burned the note and didn't tell Aita. That night, she woke screaming. Fever dream. She thrashed against the blankets, calling out names in Apache. I moved to wake her, and little Smoke snapped at my hand, drew blood. "Easy," I told the dog. "I'm trying to help." I wet a cloth with cool water and pressed it to her forehead. She grabbed my wrist, eyes wild, not seeing me. "The child," she gasped in English. "Winter took the child. My son. 2 years. Fever. I could not save." "You're safe now," I said. "You're safe." Her eyes focused. Saw me. The wildness faded, replaced by something worse. Grief so deep it had its own gravity. "I am not safe," she whispered. "No one near me is safe. They call me winter cursed. Every man who claims me, winter takes. My father, my son, Running Bear." She released my wrist. "Now you." "I don't believe in curses. Nalnish does, the elder. He say I was born during eclipse. That winter follows me. He want to cleanse me, make me third wife, break the curse through his power." "That why you ran?" "I ran because I would rather freeze in the snow than let that man touch me." Her voice was steel. "He killed his own sons in winter hunts, called them sacrifices for the tribe. I will not be his next offering." I understood then. She wasn't just running from tribal law or reservation rules. She was running from a man who used tradition as an excuse for cruelty. "He won't touch you," I said. "Not while I'm breathing." "You say that now." "But winter always wins, winter ghost. It won my husband. It won my son. It will win you, too." "Maybe, but I don't go down easy." She looked at me for a long time. Then slowly she placed her hand over mine. "I know," she said. "That is why Running Bear's spirit brought me here. Warriors honor warriors, even enemies." Day 8. The temperature dropped to 60 below. The kind of cold where your breath freezes before it leaves your lungs. Where metal burns skin on contact. Where men die in their sleep if the fire goes out. I woke at midnight to silence. The fire had burned down to embers. The cabin was ice cold, and Aida was standing at the window, staring out at something I couldn't see. "What is it?" "Torches," she whispered. "On the ridge. They are coming." I looked. Couldn't see anything through the frost-covered glass, but Little Smoke was on his feet, hackles raised, growling at the door. Then I heard it, distant, rhythmic, drums, Apache mourning drums. And the sound they make when preparing for war or death. "How many?" I asked. Aida closed her eyes, listening to something I couldn't hear. 12 warriors, led by Nalnish. They think I am dead already. When they learn truth," she turned to face me, "they will burn this place, with both of us inside. It is their law. Then we leave before they get here." "Where?" "Storm is still—" A heavy knock at the door cut her off. Not Apache drums, not warriors. This was different. "Crowley!" A man's voice. American. Official. "This is Marshal Josiah Kane. I have a federal warrant for the arrest of any Apache found off reservation. Open this door or I'll break it down." Aida's hand found mine in the darkness. "What you told Murphy," she whispered. "About making choice. This is the choice. Give me to them and live. Or keep me and—" "Ain't no choice at all," I said, and barred the door. Outside, boots shuffled, men muttering. The marshal's voice again, harder this time. "You got till sunrise, Crowley. Then we come in." Little Smoke whined. Aida's hand tightened on mine, and somewhere in the darkness beyond, Apache drums kept beating. Sunrise came cold and pale. The storm had broken overnight, leaving the world buried under 6 feet of fresh snow. Everything silent except the creak of leather and the jingle of bits. 6 mounted men ringed my cabin. Marshal Kane sat his horse in front, a lean man of 55 with a face like weathered oak. 5 deputies behind him, all carrying rifles. I stepped onto my porch unarmed. Calculated risk. Show of good faith or stupidity, depending on how you looked at it. "Marshal," I said. "Crowley." Kane's breath came out in white clouds. "You know why I'm here." "Reckon I do." Federal Reservation Act says all Apache report to San Carlos, no exceptions. You got one inside, hand her over. "She ain't property, not while I'm breathing." The deputies shifted. And one spat tobacco into the snow. "Law says otherwise," Kane replied. "You harboring her is treason against the United States territorial government. Penalties hanging." He nodded to a deputy who dismounted and walked to my door carrying a hammer and an official seal. The sound of metal on wood echoed across the clearing. 3 strikes. Final. Notice. Federal violation. Sunrise tomorrow. Surrender. Fugitive. Or face arrest. "You got 24 hours, Kane said. "After that, we come in." That's when Aida opened the door. She stood there in my too big coat, barefoot in the snow, chin raised. Little Smoke pressed against her leg. "I go," she said in her careful English. "No want good man die for me." Every man there stared. Wasn't often you saw an Apache woman speak English. Wasn't often you saw one willing to surrender. I stepped between her and the marshal. "You step off this porch over my dead body." She touched my arm, light as a bird landing. "Please. You have already done enough." "Not near enough." Marshal Kane studied us both. Something shifted in his face, not quite sympathy, but recognition, like he'd seen something similar once. "Mighty noble," he said, "but it don't change the law." That's when Murphy rode up fast, his old mare lathered despite the cold. "Marshal, hold on." Murphy positioned himself between us. "She's half-frozen starvin'. You take her now, she'll die before you reach San Carlos. Give 'em till spring thaw. Ain't going nowhere in this cold anyway." Kane considered. The law had rules about humane treatment, even for prisoners. 2 weeks, he said finally. "Then she's federal property, and you—" He pointed at me. "Answer for treason." Before anyone could respond, a sound cut through the morning. Drums. Distant but clear. Every man turned west. On the ridge, smoke signals rose in careful patterns. Christ, one deputy muttered. That's Apache. A lone rider appeared on the ridgeline. Young warrior, maybe 22, riding a paint horse. He approached slowly, hands visible, no weapon drawn. He stopped 30 feet away and called out in Apache. Ayita answered, voice sharp. They argued in rapid-fire words I couldn't follow. What's he saying? Kane demanded. Ayita's face had gone pale. He say, Naalnish claim me, tribal elder. Say I belong to tribe, not white law. Tell him the United States don't recognize tribal claims on federal land. He say you not recognize, but 12 warriors do. The young warrior spoke again, longer this time. His tone shifted, almost pleading. Ayita's hands clenched into fists. She replied in short, hard words that needed no translation. What? I asked quietly. He say Naalnish want cleansing ritual. Make me wife. Break winter curse. She met my eyes. I tell him I die first. The warrior looked at me for the first time. Said something in Apache that made Ayita flinch. He say... She hesitated. He say Naalnish know you are winter ghost, know you killed running bear, say blood debt must be paid, wife for warrior. 3 separate claims now. Federal law wanted her for the reservation. Tribal law wanted her for Naalnish. And I wanted her to have a choice in her own damn life. Marshal Kane rubbed his jaw. This just got complicated. Sir, a deputy said, we got jurisdiction. Federal supersedes tribal. Tell that to 12 armed warriors. The young Apache warrior raised his hand, not in threat but in formal address. He spoke one more time, slow and clear. Murphy translated quietly. He says Naalnish will wait 2 weeks also. Then he comes for what's his. 3 flags now, U.S. Cavalry, Apache War Party, and 1 lone cabin, smoke rising from the chimney. Marshal Kane gathered his reins. 14 days, Crowley. After that, law decides. And I mean to be the law that does it. He wheeled his horse and the deputies followed. The Apache warrior watched them go, then looked at me one last time. She belongs to Winter, he said in perfect English. Winter claims her soon. He turned and rode back toward the ridge. Ayita sagged against the doorframe. I caught her, and that's when I felt it. The slight swell beneath the coat. Her hand moved instinctively to protect it, just for a second. But I saw. Murphy saw too. His eyes widened. Silas. Not now, I said, and carried her inside. As I barred the door, I looked back at Murphy through the window. He touched his hat brim. A salute or a goodbye, I couldn't tell which. The notice nailed to my door flapped in the wind. 14 days, 2 armed camps, and a woman carrying a secret that could start a war. For 3 days, we pretended we had a future. I chopped firewood. She mended clothes. Little Smoke hunted rabbits. We didn't talk about the deadline or the men camped on opposite ridges, watching us through spyglasses. But the nights were when fear crept in. I'd wake to find her standing at the window, hand pressed against the glass, breath fogging the frozen pain. Once I caught her packing dried meat into a leather bag, preparing to run alone. Where are you planning to go? I asked. Away, before they come for you. We've been through this. You do not understand. Her voice cracked. I am winter cursed. Everyone near me dies. My father, my son, Running Bear. You will be next. Then we'll die together. But we ain't dying yet. Day 11, Murphy came at dusk. He looked nervous. Wouldn't meet my eyes when I opened the door. Need to talk, he said. Inside, he paced, kept glancing at Ayita, then away, finally sat down heavy at my table. They got to me, Silas. My hand moved toward the rifle. Who? Marshall, your cousin Elias. They know about my trading license. He pulled out a folded paper, official territorial stamp. They revoke this, I lose everything. 40 years of business gone. So, you told them where she is? I had to. Murphy's voice rose. I got grandchildren depending on me. I can't. He stopped, saw Aida watching him. Shame colored his weathered face. I'm sorry, girl. I truly am. He stood to leave. As he passed me, he stumbled, caught himself on my shoulder. His hand squeezed once, deliberate. Clumsy old fool, he muttered, and left. After the door closed, I found what he'd pressed into my coat pocket. A map, hand-drawn on the back of a whiskey label. It showed the creek bed running north, an X marked Old Spanish Mission, and a route through the forest that avoided both camps. Underneath, in Murphy's shaky hand, dogs can't track on frozen creek. Go tonight. Father Benedict remembers 1868 treaty. Aida read over my shoulder. He betray us? She asked. No, I said, feeling the warmth of unexpected grace. He just saved us. We left at midnight when the moon was dark. I saddled my mare, packed what little we could carry. Aida wore every layer I owned, looked like a child in adult clothes. Little Smoke ranged ahead, nose to the ground. The temperature had dropped to 40 below. Clear night. Stars so bright they hurt to look at. We reached the creek by 1, ice thick enough to hold a horse, and Murphy was right. The dogs couldn't track on it. I could hear them baying in the distance, frustrated, running in circles. 2 miles up the creek, Aida swayed in the saddle. I caught her before she fell. Just tired, she said, but her breathing was shallow. I found shelter in a natural ice cave carved by the creek's current. Built a small fire deep inside where the smoke would disperse. Wrapped her in the buffalo robe and held her close to share warmth. That's when she started talking. Fever again, but different this time. Not delirium. Confession. I did not tell you truth, she whispered. About why I run from Nalnish. You said he wanted to make you his wife. Yes, but not for me. Her hand moved to her belly. For this. I'd suspected. But hearing it confirmed, my breath caught. How far along? 7 moons, since before Bear Creek. Her eyes found mine in the firelight. Running Bear's child, his son. I know this. Does Nalnish know? He know. That is why he chased me. She shivered despite the warmth. He believe eclipse-born children have power over winter. He want to. She couldn't finish. Understanding hit me like a rifle butt. The cleansing ritual. He wants the child for sacrifice. She nodded. He killed his own sons 10 winters ago. Same ritual. Try to break curse. It not work. Now he want Running Bear's son. Say this one will have enough power. My hands clenched. Over my dead body. That is what I fear. She touched my frost-scarred fingers. I carry death everywhere I go. Now I bring it to you, to Running Bear's child. I should have frozen in that snow. Don't. I turned her face toward me. You ain't cursed. You're just a woman who had the misfortune of being born beautiful and strong in a world full of weak men who need to control what they fear. You really believe that? I know it. She studied my face for a long moment. Then, so quietly, I almost missed it. When baby comes, if I do not survive, you will protect him? You'll survive. Promise me. I promise. But you're gonna be there to raise him yourself. Outside, dogs bayed again. Closer this time. We need to move, I said. Dawn was breaking when we saw it. The old Spanish mission, half collapsed but still standing. Cross on the steeple, leaning at an angle like a drunk man. Father Benedict stood in the doorway, a lamp in his hand. Sanctuary, he called out. Come quickly. Someone still remembers the truth. The mission was older than any living memory. Adobe walls crumbling, roof half caved, but the sanctuary still held. A Father Benedict was 80 if he was a day, half blind, but his mind was sharp as new wire. Church sanctuary law, he explained, pouring us weak coffee in chipped cups. Federal marshals can't enter without a bishop's approval. Buys you time. How much time? I asked. 2 weeks. Then the loophole expires and they can come in legally. He squinted at Aida. But 2 weeks might be enough. For what? He shuffled to a trunk, pulled out a leather-bound book thick with dust. Territorial Law, 1868 edition. I spent 3 days searching while you were running. Found something. He flipped pages with gnarled fingers. Here. Section 47, subsection 12, Apache Adoption Clause. I read where he pointed. Legal language, dense as winter fog, but the meaning came clear. If a white settler adopts an Apache widow or orphan, I said slowly, and it's witnessed by clergy and tribal elder, then tribal claims are voided. Federal government recognizes it as legal family. Exactly. Benedict smiled. You adopt her, she's American family, protected. But it needs tribal elder witness. Aida's voice was quiet. Nalnish will never agree. There are other elders, dissenting voices. Benedict looked at her carefully. The old man in the territorial jail, what's his name? Grey Wolf. Her eyes widened. He is Nalnish's rival, imprisoned for speaking against the winter hunts. Could he witness? If he were free, yes. His word carries weight. She turned to me. But this mean you claim me as family, not— I know what it means, I said. Our eyes held. Something unspoken passed between us. Not quite love, too soon for that word, but recognition. Two people who'd found something worth protecting in each other. For 6 days, we lived in that broken mission like it was home. Aida taught me Apache songs. Lullabies, mostly. Her hand would rest on her belly while she sang, and I understood she was singing to Running Bear's son. I taught her to write her name in English. She practiced on the mission wall with charcoal, careful letters that spelled out her identity in a language that might save her life. We shared meals, dried meat, beans, the last of Murphy's flour. She tried to make bread, burned it worse than I ever did. We laughed about that. Real laughter. The sound strange and precious in the cold. One evening she showed me how to carve wood the Apache way, patient cuts, reading the grain. We made a small horse and a bird from scraps of kindling. For the baby, she said, setting them by the fire. He'll like those. She, Aita corrected with a small smile. I think daughter. Running Bear always wanted daughter. You never know. Mothers know. Her hand covered mine. Silas, if this works, if we become family by law, you would be father to Running Bear's child. I know. It does not bother you? I thought about Abigail, about the daughter I never got to hold, about how grief had made me a ghost for 3 years until a frozen woman knocked on my door. Abigail told me something before she died, I said. Don't let grief make you a ghost. I failed that for a long time, but you— I looked at her, really looked. You brought me back. She leaned her head against my shoulder. First time she'd done that. Trust made physical. In Apache, she whispered, we have word, Shidai, mean my family by choice, not blood, choice. Shidai, I repeated. Yes, you are my Shidai, and you're mine. We sat like that, her head on my shoulder, watching the fire die down to embers. Little smoke curled at our feet. For the first time since Abigail died, I felt something I'd forgotten existed. Peace. Then Father Benedict stumbled in, face pale. Smoke, he gasped. South Ridge. Big fire. I moved to the door, looked where he pointed. 3 miles away, black smoke rose against the blue winter sky. Too much smoke for a campfire, too much smoke for anything small. The direction of my cabin, I borrowed Benedict's spyglass. Through the lens, I saw flames, orange and hungry, consuming everything. My home, 20 years of life, every memory of Abigail, gone. Aida came to stand beside me. She didn't say anything, just slipped her hand into mine. That's my home, I said, voice flat, empty, was. The flames reflected in my eyes, in hers, in the windows of the mission. Father Benedict crossed himself. Marshall's work? Or my cousin's? I lowered the spyglass. Either way, they're sending a message. Nowhere left to run, nowhere left to hide. Aida's grip tightened. We still have sanctuary. For 8 more days. Then we use them. I looked at the wooden toys we'd carved, sitting by the fire. A horse and a bird. Symbols of freedom we didn't have yet. Yeah, I said. We use them. Day 14 came fast and cold. The sanctuary expired at dawn. Marshal Kane arrived with a territorial judge, a gray man with gray eyes who looked like he'd never smiled in his life. New evidence, the judge announced, reading from an official document. Property destruction nullifies homestead claim. No home to return to means vagrant status under territorial law. Sanctuary protection is void. Father Benedict protested. That's not how the law. That's exactly how the law works. The judge folded the paper. Mr. Crowley is under arrest for treason against the United States and suspicion of arson for insurance fraud. I didn't burn my own cabin. Your cousin Elias filed a claim saying otherwise, says you burned it to collect territorial compensation, then planned to flee with an enemy combatant. The judge nodded to the marshal. Take him. They put me in iron manacles, the kind that bite into wrists and draw blood. In 40 below cold, iron burns like fire. Aida moved to stand beside me. I go too. I surrender. No. I met her eyes. You stay in sanctuary. Father Benedict, you keep her here. Silas? That's an order. Marshal Kane looked between us. Something flickered in his face. Not sympathy, but recognition of something he'd lost once himself. Woman stays, he said. For now, federal warrant comes through in 3 days. Then she's ours. They dragged me outside, lifted me onto a horse with my hands chained, started the long ride to Fort Benson, the nearest town with a proper jail. The ride took 6 hours. Every mile, the chains cut deeper. My frost-scarred hands went numb, then started bleeding. The deputies didn't speak to me, didn't even look at me, like I was already dead. We reached Fort Benson at sunset. The whole town had turned out. Word travels fast in winter. Everyone knew about the Apache woman. Everyone knew I'd chosen her over my own people. Injun lover, someone shouted. Traitor! Hang him! They dragged me down Main Street in chains, past the general store where I'd bought supplies for 20 years, past the church where Abigail and I were married, past Murphy's trading post. I saw him in the doorway, hat over his heart, tears on his weathered face. People I'd known my whole life looked away. Some crossed the street rather than stand near me. Others spat. A woman I'd helped birth her child 3 years ago threw a rock that caught me above the eye. Blood ran warm down my cold face. At the edge of town, I saw Aida. She'd followed somehow, on foot, exhausted. She stood at the boundary marker, the line that said, "No Apache beyond this point." Her hand reached toward me across that invisible barrier. I shook my head, hard, clear. Keep your dignity, she understood, pulled her hand back, stood straight despite the pain in her frost-damaged feet. The crowd saw her, saw us looking at each other. The jeering got louder. They locked me in the stone jail at the fort, 6-foot cell, no heat, rats in the straw. My breath came out in white clouds that froze on the walls. I wasn't alone. An old Apache man sat in the corner, wrapped in a ragged blanket, maybe 70 years old, face like carved wood. Gray Wolf? I asked, recognizing him from Aida's description. He nodded. Winter Ghost. Heard you coming. His English was better than Aida's. They say you protect Eclipse Woman. Trying to. Foolish. She carries death. No. I settled against the wall, chains clinking. She carries life. There's a difference. Grey Wolf studied me in the dim light. Nalnish tell different story. Nalnish is a liar and a murderer. Yes. The old man smiled, bitter. He killed my grandsons. 10 winters ago. Called them offerings to break the curse. But curse was in him, not in the season. He pulled his blanket tighter. I spoke truth. They put me here for disturbing peace. What truth? That honor ain't land or blood or power. Gray Wolf's eyes held mine. It's how you stand after you fall. The words settled into my bones. 3 days I rotted in that cell. Father Benedict came once, allowed 10 minutes by the guards. Aida's hiding in Murphy's barn, he whispered. She won't eat. Says she's preparing for judgment, whatever that means. She preparing to die? I don't know. She left you a message. Tell him Winter's child comes soon. What's that mean? Benedict looked uncomfortable. I think, I think she means the baby is coming early. Stress, maybe. She's only 7 months along. My blood went ice. Get a doctor. Silas, there's no doctor within 30 miles. And even if there were, he didn't finish. Didn't need to. No white doctor would risk his reputation treating an Apache woman carrying a wanted man's adopted child. My hands started swelling. The frostbite was back, infection setting in. Black lines ran up from my missing fingertips. A military doctor examined me on the 4th day. Might lose the whole hand this time, he said, like he was discussing the weather. Won't matter if you're hanging. When's the trial? Dawn. They're building the gallows now. I could hear it, hammer on wood, steady as a heartbeat. All night long they worked on the platform that would kill me. On the 5th night, Nalnish came. The guards let him in, tribal consultation they called it. He stood outside my cell, smiling like a wolf. Give her to me, he said. I drop all tribal charges. You go free. She's not mine to give. She carries cursed child, Running Bear's ghost seed. Let me cleanse it properly. Ritual under the winter moon. His eyes were empty as a frozen lake. The child dies. The curse breaks. You live. Understanding hit me. You don't want Aita. You want the baby. The eclipse child has power. Power to control winter if offered correctly. He leaned closer. I killed my own sons for this. I will not fail again. Over my dead body. That can be arranged. He straightened. Your trial is at dawn. When you hang, she has no protector. I will take her then, and the child. He paused at the door. Or you can be sensible. Tell her to come to me. Save yourself. After he left, Gray Wolf spoke from his corner. You heard? Every word. And, I'd rather hang. The old man nodded. Good. Maybe you do understand honor after all. Morning came with the sound of crowds gathering. They let Aida visit. 10 minutes. 2 guards watching. She couldn't speak, not with them listening, but she stood at the bars, placed her hand against the iron. I put mine against hers, metal between us. A tear ran down her face, dropped onto my boot. Her mouth moved. I'm sorry. I mouthed back, protect her, meaning the baby. She understood, nodded. She left a small bundle, dried sage, and Running Bear's medicine bag. Inside, a note in the careful English I'd taught her. Ghost of husband say, protect wife and child. You are warrior now. That's when I broke. First time in 3 years, I cried. For Abigail. For my lost daughter. For Aita and the child she carried. For the future I'd never see. Gray Wolf watched me weep and said nothing. Sometimes there are no words. Outside, the guard's voice. Trial at dawn. Make your peace. Through the window, I saw moonlight fall across the hanging rope. One more night. Dawn broke gray and cold, the kind of morning that feels like the world's given up. They came for me at first light. 6 guards, like I was dangerous. Like a man with infected hands and chains could fight his way through a stone fort. The trial was set up in the town square, no courthouse, just a makeshift court on the steps of the trading post. Table for the territorial judge. Chairs for the marshal and his deputies. And behind them, a crowd of 200 people, maybe more. Everyone wanted to see the traitor hang. They dragged me up the steps in my chains. Blood from my wrists had frozen to the iron overnight. Every movement tore skin. The judge sat behind his table like a king on a throne. Gray suit, gray hair, gray soul. Silas Crowley, he announced, voice carrying across the square. You stand accused of the following crimes: harboring a fugitive Apache in violation of Federal Reservation Act, treason against the United States territorial government, destruction of property for fraudulent gain, and conspiracy with enemy combatants. The crowd murmured, a low, hungry sound. How do you plead? Not guilty, Your Honor. If I could just explain. The gavel slammed. Sound like a gunshot. You'll speak when questioned, not before. The judge nodded to Marshal Kane. Prosecution may begin. Kane stood. He looked tired. Older than he had 2 weeks ago. Your Honor, the defendant willfully harbored an Apache woman who was fleeing federal custody. He was warned multiple times by myself and by local citizens. He refused to comply with lawful orders. That true, Mr. Crowley? I saved a woman who was freezing to death. That ain't a crime. It is when that woman is property of the reservation system. The judge made a note. Continue, Marshal. Kane called his first witness. Deputy Thomas Brennan took the stand. Young man, maybe 25. I'd known his father. Deputy Brennan, did you observe the defendant engaging in suspicious activity? Yes, sir. Saw him signaling with smoke. 3 short puffs, 1 long. That's Apache war signals. That's a lie. I tried to stand. The chains yanked me back down. I was burning trash. The gavel slammed again. 1 more outburst and you'll be gagged. The judge turned to Brennan. Continue. Also heard him curse the United States government. Said federal law was, Brennan paused for effect, worth less than the paper it's printed on. More lies. I'd said federal red tape, complaining about homestead paperwork. But in Brennan's mouth, it became treason. Murphy stood up in the crowd. That ain't what happened. I was there when— Sit down, the judge ordered. You're not a called witness. But I can testify that— Sit down. The judge's eyes were ice. Or join the defendant in a cell. Murphy sat, but his hands were fists. They called 3 more deputies. Each one lied a little more. Said I'd threatened federal officers. Said I'd been seen meeting with Apache warriors in secret. Said I'd stored weapons for a planned uprising. None of it true. All of it believed. Then the judge said the words that stopped my heart. We have testimony from a family member. A man who's known the defendant his entire life. He looked at his papers. Call Elias Crowley. My cousin walked to the front. I hadn't seen him in 15 years, not since we'd argued over Abigail's family land. He'd wanted it. I'd inherited it. He'd sworn he'd make me pay. Now he had his chance. Elias was 43 but looked older, thin, mean, eyes like a weasel. Mr. Crowley, tell us about your cousin. Silas always had peculiar sympathies, Elias began. His voice was smooth, practiced. Even as a boy, he'd talk about how the Indians were treated unfairly, how the government was too harsh. That's not— I started. The gavel, always the gavel. Elias continued. When his wife died, it broke something in him. He blamed civilization, blamed progress, said if he'd kept her in the wilderness like a savage, she'd have survived. He shook his head, all false sadness, unnatural thinking. And the property? The cabin that burned? That cabin sat on a 160-acre homestead claim worth considerable money. With Silas arrested, that claim reverts to next of kin. Elias looked right at me. That would be me. The crowd murmured. Even they could smell what this was. So you benefit from your cousin's conviction? The judge asked. Financially, yes. But I'm here for justice, Your Honor. Not profit. Liar. Every word was profit. He'd kill his own blood for 160 acres of Montana dirt. You'd send your cousin to hang for land? I shouted. That's what this is? Abigail's claim? I'd send you to hang for being a traitor? Elias's mask slipped. You killed your own people for a squaw. You're not fit to— Enough. The judge's voice cut through. Testimony is complete. Does the defendant wish to speak? Yes, Your Honor, Too late. I've heard sufficient evidence. He shuffled his papers. Silas Crowley, you are found guilty on all counts. The words fell like stones. Guilty. The crowd erupted, some cheering, some gasping, Murphy shouting something I couldn't hear. Sentence is death by hanging, the judge continued. To be carried out at sunset today. Sunset. 6 hours. Your Honor, Father Benedict pushed through the crowd. I have evidence of legal protections, the 1868 adoption clause, irrelevant without proper witnesses and documentation. But, case closed. The gavel, one more time. Final as a coffin nail. They started dragging me away. That's when I heard her. No. Aida's voice. Desperate. She pushed through the crowd, limping on her frost-damaged feet. She was huge now, the pregnancy obvious under Murphy's donated coat, 8 months along, maybe more. Please. She reached the barrier where the deputies stood. I testify. I tell truth. Apache testimony is inadmissible, the judge said without looking at her. Not United States citizens. But I witness. I know he. Two deputies grabbed her arms, started pulling her back. He saved my life, she screamed. Baby's life. He good man. He. They dragged her away from the square. She fought them, kept screaming. The words got lost in the crowd noise, but I heard the last one. Please. Our eyes met across 50 feet of space. Hers were wild with grief. Mine probably looked the same. Then she was gone. Back in the cell, Grey Wolf sat in his corner like he'd never moved. 6 hours, he said. I can count. Good death or bad death, you choose. There's a difference? Yes. Good death. You die with eyes open. Bad death, you beg. He pulled his blanket tighter. I watched many men hang. The ones who beg die twice. I sat against the cold stone wall. My hands had turned black past the wrists, infection spreading. Wouldn't matter in 6 hours. Tell me something, I said. Your grandsons. When Nalnish killed them. Did you fight? Yes. Did it help? No, but I stand with clean heart. Grey Wolf looked at me. You fight for Eclipse Woman. You lose. But your heart is clean too. Don't feel clean. Never does. Clean heart always feels dirty. That how you know it's real. The afternoon crawled by. Sun moved across the window, marking time I didn't have. Then, at 4 o'clock, the guards brought a visitor. Marshal Kane. Alone. Leave us, he told the guards. Sir, protocol says. I said leave. They left. Kane stood outside my cell for a long moment, studying me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. My brother, he finally said. Frank Kane. He was at Bear Creek, 1879. I went very still. After the massacre, he told me the Winter Ghost ordered it, said a cavalry sergeant named Crowley went mad, killed women and children, started the whole thing. Kane's jaw worked. You're that Crowley. You're the Winter Ghost. Your brother lied. I know. The words hung between us. What? I said. Kane pulled a folded paper from his coat. Old, yellowed, official military report. Found this in Territorial Archives 3 days ago. Original incident report from Bear Creek. He pushed it through the bars. Look at the signature. I looked. The paper was signed Winter Ghost, but the ink was wrong. 2 different ages. And under magnification you could see where Frank Kane, Lieutenant, had been scratched out and replaced. He forged it, I said. He did more than that. Kane's voice was tight. He was commanding officer. He gave the order to fire on that camp, peaceful camp, women, children, old people. He paused. Why didn't you report him? He had a wife, 3 kids. I had nobody. I handed the paper back. Seemed like the right trade. You let me hunt you for 4 years. Let me blame you for my brother's war crime. Your brother died that winter, froze to death when Apache guides abandoned him during a campaign. Seemed like justice to me. I met his eyes. I'm sorry you had to learn the truth this way. Kane was quiet for a long time. He was my brother, he finally said. But he was also a murderer and a coward who let another man take his blame. What are you going to do about it? I don't know. He folded the paper, put it back in his coat. But I know you're not the man I thought you were. Does it matter? I hang in 2 hours either way. Maybe. Maybe not. He turned to leave, then stopped. That woman, Ayita, she's in Murphy's barn. Labor started an hour ago. My blood went cold. She's in labor? Now? Murphy sent word. Says it's early. Stress-induced. Says, Kane's voice dropped. Says she probably won't make it. No doctor, no help. Just her and Murphy's wife trying to keep her alive. Let me go to her. Can't do that. Marshall, please. I ain't asking for freedom. Just let me be there when… I said I can't. He met my eyes. But I didn't say I won't figure something out. He left. Through the window, I watched the sun sink lower. They were building the gallows in the square, testing the rope, the trap door. Gray Wolf spoke from his corner. Marshall has good heart, like you. Don't matter. Law's the law. Sometimes law is wrong. Then good hearts must break it. The sun touched the horizon, 1 hour left. The shadow of the hanging rope fell across my cell floor, long and dark and final. Outside, I heard a woman scream, Aida, in labor, maybe dying, and I was chained to a wall, waiting to hang for the crime of saving her life. 1 more hour, the guard called, the longest hour of my life. 30 minutes to sunset. I could hear them gathering outside, boots on frozen ground. The murmur of a crowd come to watch a man die. Then, hoofbeats. Fast. Urgent. Murphy's voice. Marshall, Judge, I got proof. The cell door crashed open. Murphy stumbled in, Father Benedict right behind him, both out of breath, faces red from cold. Documents, Murphy gasped, shoving papers at Marshall Kane. From Territorial Archives, look at the seals. Kane held them up to lamplight. 2 incident reports from Bear Creek. Same event, different signatures. But the seals… These don't match, Kane said slowly. Exactly. Father Benedict pointed with a gnarled finger. This one, the one blaming Silas, has the wrong territorial stamp. That seal wasn't issued until 1881, 2 years after Bear Creek. Forgery, the judge said, appearing behind them. He took the documents, squinting. This changes everything. There's more, Murphy said. He pulled out another paper. Elias Crowley's next of kin claim. He filed it 3 months ago, before Silas was even arrested, before the cabin burned. The judge's gray face went pale. He planned this? Gets better. His mother, Silas's aunt, is still alive in Kansas City. I wired her yesterday. She says she never signed no inheritance papers. Murphy's voice was hard. Elias forged them too. The whole case is built on lies. The church bells started ringing. 5 o'clock. Execution time. Marshall Kane looked at me through the bars, at my infected hands, my bloody wrists, the resignation in my eyes. Your Honor, he said quietly, I recommend we stop pretending law is about justice and start making it so. The judge was silent for a long moment. The crowd outside was chanting, Hang him! Hang him! Then, release the prisoner. They got the manacles off just as Nalnish arrived. The old Apache pushed through the crowd, 12 warriors behind him. He'd heard about the execution, come to claim what he thought would be his. Too late, Marshall Kane said. New evidence. Charges dismissed. Nalnish's face twisted. White law has no power over tribal blood debt. She belongs to herself, I said, stepping out of that cell for the first time in 6 days. My legs barely held me. Murphy caught my arm. That's when Gray Wolf spoke from his corner of the cell. Nalnish, he called. Tell them why you really want the woman. Silence, old fool. Tell them about the winter hunts, about your sons. I said, he wants the baby. Gray Wolf's voice carried across the square. People were listening now. Not the woman, the child, eclipse-born. He believes if he sacrifices it under the winter moon, he can control the storms. The crowd went quiet. Is that true? The judge asked. Nalnish's face was stone. The child is cursed. It must be cleansed. Cleansed, Gray Wolf spat. Like you cleansed your own sons 10 years ago. Left them on the mountain during a blizzard. Called it offering to the spirits. I found their frozen bodies, Nalnish, children, dead because of your madness. You lie. 12 people witnessed it. That's why they put me in this cell, for speaking truth you didn't want heard. Grey Wolf looked at the crowd. He will do the same to Running Bear's child. Kill it. Call it breaking the curse. The judge turned to Nalnish. You came here to claim a baby for sacrifice? For the good of the tribe. Get off my land. The judge's voice was cold. Federal warrant for your arrest is issued, threatening the life of a child on U.S. territory. Nalnish's warriors shifted, hands on weapons. For a moment, I thought it would turn bloody. Then one of the younger warriors spoke, the same one who'd come to my cabin weeks ago. No, he said in English. Not for this. Not for murdering babies. He lowered his rifle. The woman made her choice. We honor it. 3 more warriors lowered their weapons, then 5, then all 12. Nalnish stood alone. Cowards, he hissed. All of you. He turned and walked away, but his power was broken. Everyone had seen the truth. Marshal Kane looked at me. You're free. Charges dropped. Homestead claim restored. Ayita, Murphy's barn, half a mile. But Crowley, his voice dropped. It's not good. Labor's been going 12 hours. She's bleeding. Murphy's wife says, I was already running. My legs gave out twice. Infection and days in chains had destroyed me, but I kept moving. I could hear her screaming before I saw the barn. Then I stopped dead. On the East Ridge, Marshal Kane's deputies, remounting, 6 men with rifles. On the West Ridge, Nalnish's warriors, regrouping despite the rebellion, at least 8 still loyal to him. Both sides converging on Murphy's barn, both sides wanting what was inside. And I was one man, barely able to stand, with no weapon except the truth. Murphy met me at the barn door. She's bad, Silas, real bad. Breech birth, baby stuck. His face was gray. I don't think, Aida screamed again, a sound no human should make. Let me in, I said. Inside the barn, lantern light, blood on the straw. Murphy's wife kneeling beside Aida, who lay on a bed of blankets, sweating despite the cold. She saw me, relief and terror in her eyes. Silas, she gasped. Baby can't. Her back arched, another scream. I knelt beside her, took her hand, my infected, useless, frost-scarred hand. I'm here, I said. I'm here. They coming, she whispered. Both sides. I hear drums. She was right. Apache drums from the west, and from the east the sound of cavalry forming ranks. We were surrounded, and in the middle of it all, a woman dying trying to give birth to a child 2 armies wanted dead. Stay with me, I told her. Outside, Marshal Kane's voice. Crowley, we can protect you. Surrender her to federal custody. From the other direction, Nalnish. Ghost Rider, blood debt must be paid. Give us the cursed one and her demon child. I looked at Aida, at the woman who'd forgiven me for killing her husband, who'd taught me to live again, who'd chosen me when she could have chosen safety. Neither of you are getting her, I shouted to both sides. She's not going anywhere. And neither is her child, Murphy's wife whispered urgently. I can see the baby's feet. If we don't, do what you have to do, I said. Aida grabbed my shirt. If I die, you're not dying. Promise. Promise you protect her. I promise. But you're going to be here to... She screamed. A different sound this time. And then, a baby's cry. Thin. Weak. But alive. Murphy's wife lifted a tiny girl, covered in blood and birth, wrapped her in a clean blanket. It's a girl, she said, wonder in her voice. Aida reached for her daughter with trembling hands, held her close. Emma, she whispered. Emma Winterfire. The baby cried again, louder. Outside, both armies heard it, and everything went silent. The baby's cry hung in the frozen air. Every man, marshal, deputy, warrior, stood frozen like the world had stopped turning. There's something about that sound, new life, innocent, makes even hard men remember they were once that small, that helpless. I stepped out of the barn, holding the baby. Emma was wrapped in Abigail's old shawl, the one I'd covered Aida with that first night. She was tiny, fragile as a bird. Her eyes were closed, face scrunched, crying at the cold. "This is what you came for?" I called to both sides. "A child?" Marshal Kane sat his horse 30 feet to my right. Nalnish stood with his remaining warriors 30 feet to my left. I was caught between them, holding Running Bear's daughter, Aida's daughter, in my frost-scarred hands. "Federal law requires," Kane began. "Federal law can wait." I looked at Nalnish. "You want to kill innocents? Do it in front of God and all these witnesses." The old Apache's face was stone. "The curse must be broken." "There is no curse," Grey Wolf's voice. He'd followed from the jail, still in chains. "Only men who call their fear by holy names." One of the young warriors spoke. "Nalnish, she is just baby. Just child. She carries eclipse power. She carries nothing but her mother's hope." Another warrior stepped forward. "I will not kill children. Not for you. Not for any curse." More warriors lowered their rifles. The rebellion from the square was spreading. Naalnish's hand moved to his knife. That's when the gunshot cracked across the clearing. I felt it before I heard it. Punch to my left shoulder. The world tilted. I fell to one knee but kept hold of Emma, turning my body to shield her. "Traitor!" Elias's voice, drunk and wild. "You took everything from me." My cousin stood at the edge of the crowd, rifle smoking. Deputies grabbed for him, but he was already running, trying to reload. The baby wailed. Blood spread across my shirt, hot against the cold, but I didn't fall. Murphy was there, catching me. Father Benedict took Emma from my arms before I could drop her. And Ayita stumbled out of the barn, half dead but moving, and threw herself between me and where Elias had been. "No more!" she screamed. Not in English, in Apache. Then in English, then in both, words tumbling over each other. "No more blood. No more death. No more." She turned to face Nalnish, holding Emma now. The baby against her chest. Mother and daughter, both alive against every odd. "You want to break curse?" She spoke in Apache, Grey Wolf translating. "I break it now. Here is truth. There was never curse. Only fear. Fear of strong women. Fear of children born different. Fear of anything you cannot control." She unwrapped Emma's blanket, showed her to everyone. Tiny brown baby with black hair. Perfect. "You see, demon? You see curse?" Aida's voice broke. "I see daughter. I see Running Bear's gift. I see future." Nalnish stared at the baby. For the first time, something flickered in his eyes. Not quite shame, but recognition. "My sons," he whispered. "Your sons were not offerings," Grey Wolf said quietly. "They were murders, and you have lived with that truth every day since." The old medicine man's shoulders sagged. The weight of 10 years of guilt, of justification, of trying to prove his actions had meaning. It all collapsed at once. "I tried to fix it," he said. So quiet. "I tried to make it matter." "It will never matter," Grey Wolf replied. "You cannot mend with more blood." Nalnish looked at his warriors, at the crowd, at the baby. Then he turned and walked away. Alone. Broken. His warriors didn't follow. They just watched him go. Marshal Kane dismounted, walked to where I knelt, bleeding in the snow. "You need a doctor," he said. "I need a lot of things. Doctor's probably the least of them." He almost smiled. Almost. Then he raised his voice for the crowd. "I'm calling this protective custody. Federal term. Means this family is under United States protection. From all threats. Of foreign and domestic." He pulled out official papers, the adoption documents Father Benedict had found. According to territorial law, Section 47, subsection 12, a white settler may adopt Apache family members if witnessed by clergy and tribal elder. "Father Benedict?" He looked at the priest. "I witness it," Benedict said. "Grey Wolf?" The old Apache nodded. "I witness. She chose him. He chose her. Running Bear's spirit approves. I know this." Kane signed the papers, handed them to me. Legal family, protected by territorial and federal law. Anyone touches them answers to me. I looked at the papers. My name, Aida's name, Emma's name. All legal, all official. Family. Aida helped me stand. We faced the crowd together. Her holding our daughter, me bleeding but alive, both of us free. Murphy started clapping. Slow at first, then others joined. Not everyone, but enough. The elderly woman who'd thrown a rock at me stepped forward. "I'm sorry," she said. Simple. Honest? We were wrong. Other voices. Shame on us. Should have stood up sooner. Takes courage to choose love. Murphy organized a barn-raising party right there. Y'all owe this man a house, and a doctor, and about 40 apologies. Father Benedict placed Abigail's wedding ring in Aita's hand. "I believe she'd want you to have this." Aita looked at me. I nodded. She slipped it on her finger. "Family," she said. "Family," I agreed. Emma stopped crying. She opened her eyes for the first time, dark eyes like her mother's, and looked at the world that had tried so hard to kill her. Above us, green light flickered across the sky. Aurora borealis, dancing like spirits celebrating. Gray Wolf smiled. The ancestors approve. My shoulder hurt like hellfire. I'd probably lost half my left hand to infection. My cabin was ash. My reputation was ruined. But I had a family. And partner, that made me the richest man in Montana. I'm 87 years old now. Aida's hair is silver as the snow I found her in. Emma's grown, married, gave us grandchildren who carry both Apache and Irish blood in their veins. Every winter when the first blizzard hits, Aida squeezes my hand and whispers the same words. "Thank you for opening your door." And I whisper back, "Thank you for knocking." People ask me sometimes if I regret it. Giving up my peace, my property, my reputation for an Apache woman and a child who wasn't mine by blood. I tell them, regret's a luxury for men who never froze to death. I opened my door to death, and life walked in. Some winters, that's all the difference there is. I learned something in that wolf winter of 1883. Something about dignity and justice and what it means to be family. Dignity ain't about what others call you. It's about what you call yourself when you're alone in the dark. Justice ain't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Quiet as a baby's first breath in a barn. Quiet as a man choosing right over easy. And family isn't just blood. It's who you choose when choosing costs everything. It's the hand you hold when the world says let go. We rebuilt that cabin. Bigger this time. Room for the three of us, then for Emma's children, then for their children. The walls are covered with carvings now, horses and birds and symbols from two worlds living side by side. Little Smoke lived 16 years, long enough to see Emma grow. His descendants still guard this place. Marshall Kane came by last month. He's old now, like me. We sat on the porch and didn't say much. Didn't need to. Some things are understood. If this story touched you, tell me where you're listening from. I like knowing my words travel farther than I ever could. May your hearth stay warm, your water stay sweet, and your door stay open to the ones who need it most. Till next time, partner.